When you think of a Spike Lee movie,
Yeah.
what comes to mind? Like top thing.
If I think of just Spike Lee in general, like I think just a master cinematically. Like that's what I think. Yeah.
So you would say the GOAT.
The GOAT, for sure. Like the film GOAT, yeah.
Hello everyone. Faith's here. She's been begging for us.
I know. I've been begging for like a year and a half, and like now we can do Spike Lee. I'm so excited.
But now we're here talking Spike Lee.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of this channel, I've talked about Spike Lee quite a bit because we went through the 90s and went through the 2000s. But now we're gonna do top 5 best Spike Lee movies. We're not ranking them.
Yes. Okay.
We're just gonna talk about them.
Okay.
Because I think it would be hard to rank Spike Lee.
Yeah, he has so many that are good.
But he also does so few.
Yeah.
That if you make a top 10, that's like all his movies.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna do 5. First, we'll talk about what I think is Faith's favorite.
Yes.
Is Inside Man.
Oh, it's so great! Such a good movie. I think I don't even know what year Inside Man came out. I had to be like maybe like. What year? Maybe like it's 15 or something.
It's mid 2000s.
Yeah, mid 2000s, and like I love that movie.
Yes.
I mean, to certain people, like on the surface level, you think like, oh, just someone robbing the bank, like a heist film, but like it is so much more nuanced than that.
Oh yeah, and it's obviously Denzel's in it, but you get Jodie Foster and Clive Owen.
You have some heavy hitters in that movie.
Chiwetel Ejiofor is also in it, but there's other people. Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
So you get like a stacked cast.
Yeah.
And it's not typical of a Spike Lee movie, which is probably why people regard it as one of his best.
Yeah.
Because he breaks his style for it. But at the same time, he has his iconic shots in it that he really does, like the
dolly shot. Oh, that's like his signature shot. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love that. But like at the same time, when people think, this is so atypical of Spike Lee heist film, if you look at the undertones of like race at the same time and how he uses character development and how he uses even song choice and stuff. I mean, it still fits within those typical Spike Lee tropes. Yeah. So I'm a fan.
And the twist obviously is like one of the craziest twists in movie history.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays we're like spoiled because every movie's got a twist these days, but in the 2000s, they were really trying to find new ways to do twists.
When people were talking about that movie for like months afterwards. And I mean, this is like before social media was like huge. Right, so it's just people talking on the radio, people like going over each other's houses and talking about how good the film was. And I mean, I'm like 15 and going over shots of Spike Lee and, character development. And I think he really makes you think, especially in that movie, who is the villain and the true villain, I guess, in America. And it's based in New York. You have so many characters and you're trying to figure out like, who's the villain in the movie. And it turns out, he flips, typical things that you would think on its head, and it causes you to rethink, preconceptions.
I'm going to talk about another Denzel movie. Yes. He Got Game. But I
love the movie. Yeah. I think like one of the things that Spike Lee, I feel like really captures is like whatever he's going for, whether that's a heist film, whether that's a film about a basketball star, he really does just capture, I think, the essence of the movie. And He Got Game, like even the recruiting process, like as a former athlete like myself, I mean, I remember watching that film and I was like, this is exactly like what it is.
And it probably hasn't changed since
then. Has not. For a top, basketball player, male athlete, I mean, they will do just about anything to get you on campus, and like, so many people wanting to ride on your coattails and stuff. Like he really captured that. And I think Spike Lee just does a good job of just paying attention to the little things, whether that's letting actors like Denzel just ad-lib and just be themselves.
The whole one-on-one scene is ad-lib, basically. Yeah. It's basically Denzel being Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Because that's Jordan's reputation is to be like a little bit of a butthead.
Yeah.
But try to teach you something at the same time. So
I love when Denzel ad-libs. But I think one thing that Spike Lee does well is he gives his actors range to do that, trusts them, and just sits there and captures the best moments. Yeah. So,
well, perfect time to talk about Do the Right Thing.
Love Do the Right Thing.
Which is the movie that launched his career. He had done a few other movies beforehand and a couple other smaller stuff after this. But Do the Right Thing obviously is like it's iconic American cinema.
Yeah.
It will go down as like, when people talk about American cinema, like 40 years from now, Do the Right Thing is one of the movies they're going to talk about.
I think going back to just capturing the identity of like, you know, New York and Brooklyn. I mean, shooting like brownstones and stuff. Those are all iconic things that makes New York, New York.
Yeah.
And Spike Lee just does that so well. Obviously, like he's from there. So, you know, capturing those small moments but making it authentic. Oh, he does that so well. One of the things I love about Do the Right Thing, I think it's that opening shot. Like what is it? Like the woman is like dancing at the beginning of
Rosie
the film.
Perez is dancing.
Yes. I mean, that is such one of the things that the film is known for and that just sticks out, but it just like off rip just establishes the character of the movie and not like the true character, but like the identity of it. And just gives it so much like flavor, pizzazz, and just like in your face, this is what we're doing.
And it was very honest about how race relations work in America. A lot of nowadays it's sort of sanitized and you can't really talk about it the way Do the Right Thing talks about it. But Spike Lee, especially in other movies, he does a really good job of being like, no, it's a little more nuanced. It's not black versus white or Hispanic versus Asian or anything like this or any of those preconceived. It's like just like, you know, there's disagreements to be had, but there's also agreements to be had. And I think it's especially the bubbling up of like early New York, late 80s, early 90s crime in New York. So it's a lot of undertones. That are kind of baked in the movie themselves. Like you said, Spike Lee grew up there, so he obviously knows about it. Write about what you know. But yeah, it's the performances. It's Bill Nunn as Radio Raheem.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Fight the Power just became like such a hit, and even in that, one of the things Spike Lee really does well is his use of music and song selection and scores that he uses. So even in that moment when, you know, the climax of the movie and, you know, when things are coming to a head and you hear like, you know, Fight the Power in one scene and just his use of like chords and strings and just it becomes so emotional and like, you know, those big heavy hitting scenes. I mean, I remember feeling so bad for Radio Raheem and being like, oh my gosh, I'm about to cry. And it's just, he always circles back to like a resolution, you know, in those final scenes where, you know, you see Spike Lee or, you know, other characters going back to like get their money or, you know, from the restaurant. It's just, it's always resolution based and like makes you think once you see the film.
Now we're going to go to the Five Bloods, which Faith hasn't seen.
I have not seen it.
But I will say, and we have a review on this channel and everything. It is probably, it came out at the perfect time. I mean, I don't know if it was the perfect time, but the way he shot the movie, it's about these Vietnam veterans that go back to try to find some gold that their buddy who died in Vietnam, played by Chadwick Boseman, was one of Chadwick Boseman's last roles.
How have I not seen this movie?
You should definitely watch it. It's longer than most movies, but it's really worth it. And just the performances by everybody in it, especially Chadwick, he's not really in it, but you could see why they want to go back and find this lost treasure.
Okay.
And it is just a crazy, like, it's a wild post-war movie that's like anti-war, but at the same time, it's like, it's not glamorizing anything, but it's also a bunch of old dudes having fun. And so there's a scene where they go to a club, a Vietnam club, and they're just like dancing. I think Delroy Lindo, he got robbed.
Really?
He should have won an Oscar for this performance.
Man.
And I recommend this movie to anybody all the time when they're like, hey, what movie I should watch? I'll just be like,
I'm gonna put this on my list. Like, but I think, you know, it's certainly piquing my interest because I think one of the things Spike Lee, among the millions of things that he does well, he really does tackle big issues. We know he tackles race issues, but socio-political issues, including like the Vietnam War. We know that was big in American culture. And I think I haven't seen it, but him trying to tackle subjects like that, where those moments, you know, where he does find humor in issues, but still at the same time takes it very seriously and tries to capture the authenticity of such a big topic like that.
And it's hard nowadays to make a Vietnam War movie because it's been explored so much. Same with like World War II.
Right.
But as the way American culture works, we're just going to keep mining the things from the past, which is okay as long as you have something new to say.
Yeah.
And I think Spike really did. Speaking of something new to say, BlacKkKlansman.
Yes.
This movie, I put it as my number one of that year. I can't remember what year it was, 2018 or 2019.
It's still relatively like a newer movie, one of his newer movies.
But, you know, there was protests that were happening at the same time. So not to spoil it, because I know you haven't watched it.
I haven't. I've seen snippets, but I've not seen it fully. So.
It's hard to watch movies as you get older. I mean, it touches back to real life a little bit. I'm not going to spoil what it touches back to, but, you know, Charlottesville and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was happening, but it's basically based loosely on a true story.
Okay.
About a black guy infiltrating the Ku Klux Klan. Adam Driver plays his like stand-in basically, and it's just the way it's shot. Like you said, it mixes humor with race relations. The guys that play the neo-Nazis, they do such a good job.
Do they make you hate them?
Yes.
And like,
But you forget they're, like at a certain point, you forget they're actors.
Yeah.
But Adam Driver does such a good job like infiltrating them too, that you're just like, oh my God, this movie is insane. And then when it connects to real life, I was in tears in the theater.
So is it less humorous than like say a Django and like a little less like slapstick in your face with a little more, or is it kind of in the same realm?
It's more realistic.
Okay, realistic. Okay.
There's humor in it. Obviously, like John David Washington puts on his white people voice on the phone. So he does that, and there's humor in it, but over time it loses the humor because it's like, oh, Spike's wanting to make a point, and you could feel it. It's like a crescendo at the end of the movie.
Yeah. That's what he does well. I mean, he's a true storyteller and uses so many different elements to, like you said, go from that humor to more of reality. And like, there's always a teaching lesson and always a resolution and something where you're walking back and you're like, man, like that was really powerful. I'm really moved by that.
Faith, before we started recording, was talking about the documentary series he did on New Orleans.
Seeing his documentary, I think I've always, you know, from an early age knew I wanted to be a journalist, but I think his documentary really like sealed the deal for me. He captured the essence of just seeing what people go through and using that storytelling and using other journalists' work and including that in his documentary. He did it so well. And I remember watching it at home and being like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a storyteller. I want to go and talk to people and capture those moments. And just even beyond like him shooting things and certain shots that he used, which is his signature, he also works with so many good composers and people who use such great scores. Yeah. And I think the same person that he used in When the Levees Broke, he actually used them in Inside Man as well. Okay. And so there's always overlap. If you listen to some of the soundtracks and you listen to some of the music, he sometimes uses them again in some of his movies because he likes the tone and the way that some of these composers capture stuff. But I remember watching that and I was so moved and just being like, man, like he did such a great job. So I'm clearly a Spike Lee fan and just love it.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, but you know, there are other movies that we did not list, like The 25th Hour, that people love a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's just Spike Lee is obviously he's got his own political opinions or whatever.
Yes, he does.
But the movies that he makes are things that, you know, you need to talk about.
Yeah, and it makes you think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whether you agree with him or not, there are very clear truths in his stories that he tells. And you can take from that what you want. Yeah,
I agree because I think, you know, I was very young watching like Malcolm X when I was, and you know, you don't have to agree with certain ideologies or politicisms from people, but you can still respect the acting. You can still respect the way that things are shot. You can still respect the way the song choice and selection. So I could go on and on. I mean, you have Mo Better Blues. You have so many things to choose from.
I've talked about Mo Better Blues quite a bit on this channel. Great movies. If you've not watched a single Spike Lee movie, it is now your job to go watch one of these movies.
Yeah, I agree. We're Spike Lee all the way over here. We might even still talk about him after we stop rolling.